Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today I titled this message, Biblical Parenting, Raising Tweens with Love and Faith. Raising tweens with love and faith. Why am I specifically talking about tweens? Of course, we want to raise our children with love and faith according to biblical principles, but why specifically tweens today? The Lord, He brought me back to my old diary, and right between the ages of 9 and 12, I noticed there was an obsession, okay? Now, we know the tween years start at age 9 to 12. And right around that time, we got girls and we have boys who are starting to blossom, if you will. They're going through puberty. There's the hormonal changes that increase their interest in the opposite sex. The body starts to produce all sorts of sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. And of course, there's those feelings of attraction and curiosity, right? And so for some of you all, what happened was during that time period of your life, if you reflect back, you may have been the same way. Oh, there's that boy. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. The girl. Oh my God. I wish I could be whatever to whoever. Okay. Well, this obsession, if left unchecked, undiagnosed, what have you, can lead to all sorts of issues later on in life. Okay. During the tween years, this is where we were having this stronger sense of who we are, and we wanted to be independent. We started thinking about romance, like dating, and in the future, if we should become married. We thought about children one day, or maybe not. But these thoughts were in our minds. And some of these thoughts were put there because of social influence. We had the media that was telling us how to think about a lot of things. Our parents, grandparents, some of you all remember long summers watching soap operas. So there we saw relationships, good, bad, and otherwise. Our peers were telling us about their boyfriends and girlfriends. And then, of course, societal norms. That too played a role in shaping how we viewed relationships. Our mother and her relationship to our father, our aunt and her relationship with our uncle, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, all of these relationships, whether functional or dysfunctional, they were all around us. And we formulated our own thoughts concerning these relationships. Some of us were curious and wanted to take it the next level. We wanted to experience some things that looked okay, looked harmless. And so we need a willing participant. We need a peer. Whether that was, for some of you all, a sibling, a classmate, a friend, but someone who you wanted to practice with. You wanted to see what this was all about. Okay? We're not going to judge. We're not going to point fingers. We're not going to be digging up the old stuff that made you feel some kind of way. We're just talking right now. Okay? In order to see what's going on with that 9 to 12-year-old who may be your child or someone else's child, you might be the grandparent trying to figure some things out because your memory is a little dated. You forgot some things that you did. What is going on that I can't seem to connect with this child? Why is this child always talking about the girl, the boy, or both? What is up? I've never experienced anything like that. I'm trying to remember. Well, I got you, because like I said, the Lord called my mind to remembrance, and I pulled out the old diary. I remember as I got older, my mother asking me, why did you write so much about boys? The question that she really should have asked herself and my dad was, what were you doing or not doing at that time in that girl's life? The reason why she was obsessing so much about boys. See, taking a look at yourself as a parent is more significant than looking at the child so much. Because children are going to obsess about any number of things. It may not be about the girls or the boys, but it may be about the games that's on the phone or on the gaming system. It might be about something that is so weird and so strange, but there's an obsession of some sort. And the reason for this is because somewhere along the line, there is someone dropping the ball. I know this is going to be one of those messages that some people are going to want to distance themselves from, disassociate. I don't know what you're talking about because I give this child everything. Must we remind some individuals that no amount of material items will be able to fill the void that a child has? When all they want is my mother to pay attention to me, my father to show some love, and not no dysfunctional, nasty kind of stuff, but just some love like what we saw on some of the most innocent shows back in the day, where dad comes home and dad is nice to mom and mom is nice to dad. Mom knows her role, dad knows his. We all go to sleep at night. We wake up and we feel good. We didn't have to worry about nobody coming in the room late at night wanting to mess around with us. We didn't have to worry about, oh, somebody is going to, bust the front door down and steal from us. All of those sorts of things, depending on where you live, what type of mindset is in that household or what have you. Those are things that children who are in those dysfunctional environments have to put up with. And so we're not surprised when someone repeats the cycle of foolishness, because we know that they never got the necessary resources, help to be able to break what they had encountered. But when it is in your power to do so, and you know that you function with logic and reason, and you've got God on your side and all this other stuff, then you should be able to meet that child where he or she is between or starting at ages 9 to 12. Because too many children are being lost where that age group is. I'm reading diary entry after diary entry. There's 1 boy, 2 boys, 4 boys, 5 boys that I'm looking at, I'm staring, I'm wishing one day we could be able to, go places and do stuff. The strict behaviors of a father start showing up when mom's coming back saying, hey, just so you know, your daughter is doing this or thinking about this. What, huh? You see, at least the fathers who care. So I'm not saying that everything that my dad ever did was, it was so terrible and wrong or whatever, because there were things that he had to step it up, at least at that point, because wait a minute. She is behaving in this way. Ugh. Yeah, but you're not holding yourself accountable as to why she is behaving this way, and what do you plan on doing about it other than being strict? Yeah, we are coming where some individuals are. Where's the communication? If he's coming home from work and he's seated in front of a television screen and he's not talking too much about anything, or we're bringing the conversation to him, and it's usually, this is what happened at school, this is what we did. There's no two-way conversation. Well, here's what happened at work, and this is why I want you guys to be. Because he got his share of issues, and many relative at that particular time in my life, it seemed like everybody had a health problem. This one's head hurt. This one's back hurt. This one had leg issues. This one couldn't lift this and do that. And everybody, though, with the exception of a few, were picking up all sorts of weight. So now we got people with food addictions. Then others, looked like they were always escaping, going somewhere in their mind. So now we had the drug addictions. We had all these different addictions, and meanwhile, where was any of the communication other than some crazy stuff that the drug-using uncle said, or some mean-spirited things that relatives said when they were in pain? Wow, we're really communicating with children, huh? And yet you want them to be the best, the greatest, and the most shiniest example that represents your family. There were plenty of conversations that were judgmental and were closed off. You want to ask questions? No. Now you stay in a child's place, not realizing that the questions that we're asking are directly tied to what we're trying to figure out concerning ourselves, or why some of our peers are acting the way they were acting, and whether or not it's the right thing to do. But you shut me off. Okay, well, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go talk to somebody else then. Be it right, be it wrong. And so off we went, talking to people in the family who did have open communication with us and who wasn't judging us about how we felt about that white boy or that red boy or yellow boy or, brown boy. Some of us were trying to connect, and adults weren't having it. I want to tell you about my feelings concerning this boy and that boy and why I feel the way I feel. But nope, you don't want to hear it. I remember one of my sons was telling me about someone at the time in the family who was attracted to the same sex. Didn't feel comfortable talking to relatives about that. And so they were the ones listening to some of the conversation. And then eventually there was enough courage that the relative had to finally say to mommy that what you see isn't really what you see, and what you hear isn't really what you hear. You're thinking that I'm liking somebody who's the opposite sex, and instead it's the same sex. You see? There was no talking back in the day in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I recall where, it's okay, it's all right. No, it was discouraged because, see, you don't want to be that fast-tailed gal. You don't want to be all up in somebody's face looking like and some of you all fill in the blank. But I'm only 9, okay? I'm only 10, 11, 12. I wasn't really thinking about all that, but now that you told me all that, and then I'm seeing what I'm seeing in the media, looks interesting. I'm showing up and I want to talk about a crush. And nope, you're not going to have that conversation. Matter of fact, what was fed to me without me even opening up my mouth, but I know that folks was opening up my diary, what was told to me was, you better watch it. I'm watching you. You're talking about these boys, these girls, and all this stuff about boys. No, they didn't want us to look at it as being normal to have a crush. They weren't asking us questions about how we felt about things. They were talking at us. They wanted us to toe the line, walk the straight and narrow. But I got these feelings on the inside, and I don't know, every time when I see a nice looking boy, he's going down in my diary. I'm going to talk about this one because I just don't want to lose this feeling. Because I know I can't hug him, I can't kiss him. I know I'm not going to be, doing what I see on TV with him. So the very least I can do is pin his name down because he makes me feel good. But these adults around here, especially the men, no, they don't make me feel good. They make me scared of them. They're not telling me anything that makes me feel like I'm special. Matter of fact, they're telling me about everything that doesn't make me feel special. Whose dad am I talking about? Dad wasn't approachable. Talking about boys and crushes and all that? He wasn't approachable, and some of your husbands are still that way. She needs her daughter. She needs her father. But there has been this image that has been built up, created, that he ain't nothing to play with. He can do this and he can do that. Okay, even Superman was approachable. Hello. You see? If you're approachable, like you got that open door at the workplace where your team can come in and sit down and talk with you about whatever bothers them, and you're not judgmental and you're not making them feel bad, why can't you be that way with your family members? See, a lot of times this open communication is what opens up the door for these healthy relationships later on in life. But being that I'm an African American and I talk to a lot of African Americans, I can tell you that it's still this closed off, it's my business, what you asking me about my business for going on. And it's ruined the relationships with sons and daughters. It's ruined relationships between relatives. It's ruined relationships between friends. Because I don't feel comfortable approaching you and telling you how I really feel about this so-called relationship that we have. And I don't feel comfortable expressing my feelings. And then I don't know about telling you about who I'm attracted to. Because everything that is ever centered around this so-called relationship, I'm talking to someone, everything that has been centered around this so-called relationship has always been about judgment and you side-eyeing me and looking me up and down. And no wonder your child treats you the way she treats you. And no wonder your son acts the way he acts, because the same old dysfunctional programming creeps right back up in the next generation. And now we got them growing up and they're going to treat their kids the same way. When does it stop? Communication, number one. Now, number two, okay, well, we can't let children run amok and we can't let children say whatever and do whatever. Okay, that's all well and good. No, we can't. So that's why we set clear boundaries. You see? And some individuals, do they want to do that? Oh, because everything that went on when I was a child, my dad was this, that, and the other. So I'm just going to let the children do whatever. So we go from being in this household where everybody's so strict to now we got parents that's just letting kids just do whatever. No happy medium, no middle ground. Jesus. And that's who we need like never before. The appropriate boundaries. I need to look those up, says the parent. What are the appropriate boundaries for relationships? What is a healthy, functional interaction with someone who's opposite sex, same sex? What type of behaviors are acceptable for your 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11, 12-year-old child or grandchild? They need to know this. Have you had that conversation? Preferably mother to son. Father to daughter. And then we have another meeting and we switch those children off to the next parent. What exactly are unsupervised interactions supposed to look like? And is there any limit to how long you're talking to someone on the phone? Because see, nowadays, everybody got their own little personal phone. So you don't know how long that one's talking on the phone. Back in the day, we had a phone line. It was coming out the wall, right? You had your phone. What, it was the rotary phones, and then of course eventually it was the push button phones and all that. But everybody in the household could see how long you were on that phone, and they could also hear your conversation too, depending on where that phone line was. It was okay to talk to friends. It's just how long we gonna be talking and what are you talking about? And then in some households like mine, that better be a call about some homework. Yeah, those social calls wasn't allowed. I know, right? Look, if the boundaries are not discussed, they're not established, rest assured that 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old is going to make their own boundaries. And you're not necessarily going to like that. Since this is a faith-based channel, we are going to get into some of the biblical principles, and then I'm going to get back to some more points with regard to this healthy way of dealing with children who are exhibiting those signs that they're obsessed with that opposite sex or same sex. But biblically, we know that we are to teach and train our children. Proverbs 22:6 says, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. How many children were starting off, maybe even yourself, were about God's business in the beginning, but then as time went on, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, and those people and the way they do things, and then eventually what did? You fell off. You had nothing to do with the one true God, so you was out there and you were looking at Tom, Dick, Harry, John, Bobby, and some folks was looking at Sandy and Tina and Jenny and Lindsay and Sarah and everybody else, okay? I'm just making up some names, all right? And I'm saying, okay, wait a minute, hold up. We're looking at some adult children. That's what we're looking at. The same people who we went to high school with, who was all about, who they could do this and that with. 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years later, that one who got away years ago, oh, now you on Facebook talking to this one. And now you think that you can get engaged, and for others, they went on, got married, and then you found out that it isn't what it appeared to be. I mean, it was a beautiful story. It was a beautiful story. You finally got with this one that you had that crush on from years ago. But people grow up, people change, and usually the crush really had a lot to do with what was going on at that time between or starting at 9 up to 12. What did we say earlier? Biological changes. Exactly. So it wasn't real love. There was curiosity back then. And then later on in life, you finally got that need fulfilled, only to be the cat that, is no more. Curiosity, the old adage. And so, we educate our children about what a healthy relationship looks like and an unhealthy one. And be prepared for them to say, well, wait a minute, Mom. You're saying that this is what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like. Respect, yes. Mutual understanding. And what exactly is that again? Right? And then you break it all down and you give them examples. Okay, you also told me that a healthy relationship is supposed to be one where you're supposed to be emotionally mature. Like, okay, explain that. What does that mean? You see. And you can be able to look these sorts of things up and then even use AI to say, explain this topic to a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, a 12-year-old. You see, this way you are doing some things by the book, so to speak, and you're not taking some of your dysfunctional stuff and putting it in that conversation and confusing your poor child. Now, here's the thing that's going to happen for some of these very smart children. They're going to say, well, all of what you explained to me about this respect and being, understanding and being mature, and how I make decisions and looking out for myself so I don't get hurt. Okay, I appreciate all that, but why is it that I don't see that between you and daddy? Uh-oh. Woo! Woo! Sound the alarm. And for some of you all, okay, wait a minute, hold up now. No, don't get all upset. Don't get all in your feelings. Well, Mom, you tell me that I shouldn't be this way and that way, but you had about 4 or 5 boyfriends. Dad, you telling me all this about, respect and everything, but you didn't respect my mother much because, what about all those females? And then you brought females around, so you having these conversations, and I'm just trying to figure some things out, you see. And what you need to do is tell people that what you did was wrong. You don't go sugarcoating and covering up and, well, what had happened was, and trying to, nope, it was wrong. It was wrong. You see, you want them to understand the difference between what a friendship is, what infatuation is, and what is a real connection to someone. A real emotional connection. Maybe you figured it out after 5, 6, 10, 20, 30 sometimes around, and the kids saw about 5 or 6 of those. But either way, you've got to let that child know that you understand the error of your ways and that you're trying to make a difference. But if you're not trying to make a difference, you can't expect that child to look at you and say, okay, I'm going to do the right thing. Because if they don't see the right thing being done, they're not going to do it. This is a hard lesson, because to see your children go through doing the same foolishness that you did a long time ago, getting themselves mixed up with this one and that one, having pity for that stray cat of a man or woman out there as they get older. And you're like, oh my goodness, my child's doing the same things. Yeah, but you never wanted to admit your faults though. See, and this is where that narcissism kicks in for some people. And the children grow up and they start studying some things and they say, that's why mom never admitted or dad never admitted to anything, because they were a narcissist. They were all about self. They really wasn't loving on us, caring for us, all like that. That's why we started running around the neighborhood, looking for all sorts of friends. Whether they were old or young, we didn't even care. We just wanted somebody to pay attention to us and love on us and buy us things and make us feel special. Because mom and dad was always about making themselves feel special. And they were always about meeting one another's needs, but they weren't thinking too much about our needs. They couldn't wait for us to get out the house. They couldn't wait for us to just do what we wanted to do and spend the money that we had, because they didn't want to come up off of anything. Ooh, you see how I could just run through that like that? Because I've seen it too many times. And now it's the big old payback for exposing people. Oh, we gotta get her. She can't be talking about the family like this. Shut up. Because God's shutting you up these days. You starting to see your children play out that same old song and dance. And going back to what the church said. Going back to what our advisors said. Going back to what even Jiminy Cricket was saying to Pinocchio. Look, you got to do the right thing. Deuteronomy 6:6-7 says, these commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts, right? We are to start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it, right? Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Oh, mom, here you go with your conversation again about this, that, and the other. Yep. And I'm going to keep giving you these conversations, because sooner or later, you are going to be out of this house. You're going to have your own place. You're going to have your job, all these things, and you're going to run into some people. And those people that you run into, I want you to be a respectful individual. I don't want you to be out there in those streets carrying on like a pimp, player, hustler, gambler, liar, or drunkard. I want you to be the epitome of what it is to be a believer, a righteous person. And I know, yes, you will have your share of flaws and everything else. We all do. But one thing about it, they can't say that you are a great example of what Satan wants. Okay, that you are not that child of darkness, that evil, disrespectful, nasty, good for nothing. You see what I'm saying? They can't say that about you. Look, I know it's tough, but this age group right here, this is an impressionable age group. They're still willing to listen to you. You see, this was something else that was missing back in those days. There was no balance. There was no balance when it came to the academics, the hobbies, the sports, the family time, the friendships. No balance. It was all about school. Back in my day, all about school. Oh, sports. Okay. What? There's gonna be boys there, or there's gonna be girls there, or there. You know who all gonna be there? I'm gonna have to think about that. Some of us was allowed to go ahead on and play sports. Others were not. Or there was a time where they did let us and then they didn't. Okay? And so you are out there and you're trying to have a good old time, and somebody is giving you a lot of grief because this costs money, that costs money, and then you get tired of it after a while and you just say, you know what, I just don't need this headache from my parents. Meanwhile, though, that was a healthy, functional choice because it was to keep you from doing some things that you had no business. Now, for some, they joined for all the wrong reasons. And that's why parents were like, oh, I see what you're doing. Family time? Where was family time if mom's working all the time and dad's nowhere around? Where do you get family time? Who in the family can you reach out to that you trust? Where's the surrogate family? Can it be found in the church? One family thought that they were doing the right thing by sending their children off to a youth Bible study, only to find out that one of the family members was being abused by the youth Bible study teacher. So where was the family in terms of paying close attention to what's going on? You see? I mean, because we need to have some eyes and ears wherever. It doesn't matter whether it's at the church or at the school or over at someone's house. Because some of the abuses, matter of fact, not even some, many of the abuses happened between peers, siblings. Mom's gone all day. Dad's gone all day. Moms and dads dropping people off over at this one and that one's house. You thinking it's the adult that was doing that kind of stuff to the kids. Nah, a lot of times it was peers. The cousins, the sisters, the brothers. Some of you all you know. And if you didn't confess sin and repent, and I triggered an emotion within you, you need to confess sin and repent to the one true God. Because the hiding and the lying and the secrecy and all of that, that's also what's keeping some families broken. Because that wife, she doesn't know what you did. Or the husband doesn't know what the wife did years ago. Or what they experienced. Because why are you treating those kids like that? And she holds back and she doesn't say anything. Okay, so you don't want to talk about it. You can talk about it to the one true God and ask him for healing. And give him ask him to give you the guidance in terms of teaching your children the right way and your grandchildren the right way to carry on with others. The focus needs to be redirected. I see that she's obsessed with the boys. I see that he's obsessed with the girls, or they're obsessed with both. Okay, so we need to get something going here where we redirect their focus towards the personal growth and goals. They don't have any? Well, let's start something. Let's put some things in front of them. They're so busy looking at the new stuff, the cool stuff, the things that's going to help them in the future. You talk about things like getting out the house. You talk about things like making your money and being a success in life. Oh, you got my attention. I told my little diary that I wanted to have a mansion and I wanted to meet stars one day, and I mean, I was saying all sorts of interesting things. So if the parent came across the diary, they could have said something like, you know what, let's get this girl involved in this activity and that activity because she is expressing interest in singing, dancing, acting, and she wants to do some wonderful things with her life. Instead of focus on all the conversation that I had in my diary about the boys and then punishing me in a slick way because I had so much focus on boys. Is there some monitoring going on in terms of the type of media that the children are watching? I know that relatives, some were strict about rated R movies. Oh no, you're not watching any rated R movies. But nowadays, a child has a phone, a tablet, a computer. You're asleep. You don't know what they're watching. They have access, username and password to your Netflix account. You see? So now you got to figure out how you're going to monitor that. You might have to put some things on the devices. You might have to take devices away, depending on how far gone they are in whatever they're watching, right? The music that they listen to, the curse words, the messy stuff, what they're saying on social media, who they're following. All sorts of relationships that these people have nowadays, even more so than what we had back in the day. People going into some of these rooms pretending like they're adults, putting on these characters that they build up, and now they're having sexy conversation with a grown person in some fantasy world. What is she looking at when she's got meta virtual reality on her face? What is he looking at? You can be able to see some things using your cell phone. Oh, that's what she's looking at. When one parent found out that her daughter was obsessing over the same sex like she was, and not only that, looking at some things that were not good to look at, she had to be very proactive in terms of, first of all, you're going to lose some electronics for a while, and then during that period where the young lady lost her electronics, she put all sorts of devices on electronics. And sure, kids can get around or whatever. Yeah, and there's also notifications that a parent can receive when children get around some things. Okay? Every now and again, looking over somebody's shoulder. Oh, you're very quick to get off that device. Let me take a look. No, 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 no. Oh, you don't want... Okay. Look, parents don't have to pay certain bills either. Suddenly, she's lost her phone line. You see? That particular device no longer can receive internet. I mean, there are things that you want to be, that parent that's proactive, and you've got that one that refuses to listen to you, wants to, get sassy, nasty, whatever. Okay. You got to do what you have to do. Sometimes you got to send people off to boot camp. There were parents who did that. Bye-bye. See you. Where am I going? You're not sticking around here. Now you want to start throwing stuff, putting your hands, call yourself exacting revenge on me? All right, bye. We want to encourage positive media. The kind of media that promotes their self-esteem so that they're not so busy looking at those females and those males. And I wish I could be like, you see. What are you saying to your children, grandchildren? I know there was a lot of negative things spoken to us years ago about our faces, about our butts, about our legs, about our breasts, about everything. And so it wasn't any wonder that we had low self-esteem. And then we heard a lot of negativity about that relationship and this one's no good. And see, this one's always picking bad partners and all that. Well, what makes partners bad? And I mean, there was no explaining. And the attitudes that we saw were quite negative. The positive relationships, are they encouraged? The people who do have successful relationships in the family, out of the family? What about your relationship? Maybe you're not the one that has the dysfunctional stuff going on. So then let the children see, amplify it, the respect, what that looks like, the communication, what healthy boundaries are. And then this way, when the children see how you're interacting and what you're doing to take care of that one in the family, whether it's the husband, the wife, or someone who you're in a committed relationship with, and they see how caring and kind and considerate and loving you are, that they'll want to mimic that. And if you do have your bad days, shield your children from it. The children are at school, and now we got to have a serious conversation. You see, there was that was going on too, is that some of the adults, they were never having those arguments in front of us at all. They made sure that all of their disputing, and if they wanted to freak out, yell, we didn't see it. You see. But there's one final thing when it comes to teaching these children, and you know they're obsessing on this one and that one and everything else, is helping them understand what they're feeling on the inside. You know, oh, I love this boy, I wrote in my diary. And then another page, oh, I love this boy. And then I wrote again, oh, I really love this boy. Okay, that was infatuation. Looking back, it was infatuation. And infatuation was overwhelming me. So you're sitting down and you're saying, hey, is there something you want to talk about? About what? About your feelings. I see that sometimes when we're out and about, you're staring at a boy. Or I notice that this name keeps popping up on your phone. Let's talk about it. I'm not going to sit here and start cussing at you or freaking out, or, oh my gosh, my mom is going to, look, what's going on? You see? And you're cool about it. You're, nonchalant. You're laid back. When there is discipline involved, though, because, oh my goodness, I can't believe she did. Or how old is this boy or this woman? What the heck? This type of thing. Proverbs 13:24 says, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. This is Bible. Okay. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. In the King James, it says, do not provoke children to wrath. Okay. We don't want to be on them all the time to the point where they hate us. And I will tell you that. I'm just going to be quite transparent and candid. All the strict, the nasty, the saying this and saying that and making us feel bad about ourselves. No, I did not like being around the adults. There was a period where I did not like being around the adults. I started having very negative emotions on the inside concerning the adults, because you couldn't move right, you couldn't move left. They wouldn't listen to you. They didn't want to answer your questions. It was just very difficult being around them. And when they would say, I love you, I did not want to say, I love you back. I did not feel those kind of feelings. And maybe there could have been some jealousy or something going on too with some of the adults. Like, you could express your feelings to this boy and that boy, but you don't even want to say nothing to us because you're not showing that type of love. You're not. You're giving me a lot of problems, a lot of grief. You're on me all the time. I can't go here. I can't do that. What do you want from me? And I was just like, I've had enough. You see. Children need to see compassion. They need to see kindness. You see, when you are in an environment, and once I got away from some folks, I'm telling you, when I started getting in those environments where I saw some of those like really cool family sitcoms playing out in some of these households, I was like, what? This is actually real? I saw people support it. I saw people not scared of their parents. I saw people were caring. I saw people who put money where their mouth was and move people along in terms of the things that they wanted to do in their lives, telling them they could and not they can't. I'm like, wow. And then you start thinking, I wish I grew up around these people. You see, you don't want your children to start feeling that way. Psalm 103:13 says, as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. You should be very concerned about what God's next move is in the way that you're treating your children. You should. That's a good, healthy feeling, to be fearful of the one true God. But to walk around being fearful of parents, God says that I want you to exhibit compassion and kindness. I want you to discipline with love. I want you to teach and train your children. That's what I want. Too many people are leaving it up to others. But if that's what you feel comfortable doing because you're incapable due to all of what you went through, then okay. But just so long as there's something positive happening in this child's life, you see, other than trying to buy them everything that they've always wanted. We are encouraging one another as saints, right? And even sinners encourage one another. We build each other up. Well, if we do that as adults, we're supposed to do that with our children as well. The constant negative words, the criticism, that breaks us, right? It breaks us. You don't want to hear all that negativity and harsh words being spoken to you as an adult. So why are you doing all of that to your children? We're supposed to speak life. We're supposed to encourage them. Colossians 3:21 says, fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. And 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. We are expected to provide for our children as well as, in my case, future grandchildren's needs. Okay? For some of you all who have very young children that you're caring for, I know sometimes they really get on your nerves and you say how you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that. But at some point, though, there are some things that you must do. Otherwise, the law gets involved, right? So we want to make sure that we're providing for them mentally, physically, spiritually, right? Emotionally. They need to be in a stable and supportive environment. Our foster mothers, foster fathers, spiritual mothers, spiritual fathers can attest to this. The reason why those children are with them in the first place is because there was no stability in the home. There was no support that was being given. Do you want the judge to decide what that is supposed to look, or do you want the judge to explain what that's supposed to look like? Do you want the judge to decide in your case? There should have never been a case if people were on their A game. 1 Timothy 5:8, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. You know that woman got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. And you sitting up here talking about, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that, because you want to punish her because she didn't do what you told her to do. Well, the kids are already here. You see? And when you call yourself punishing a parent, you also punishing those kids. Losing another generation behind some stingy, angry, bitter, resentful parents and grandparents. God watches, God sees, and he told me just last night, he said that the wicked will be receiving their punishment. So that's where we are with it. Philippians 4:6 tells us we're supposed to pray. So I'm going to end this message with this, is that when we're talking about these children and grandchildren, like Hannah in the Bible, the mother of Samuel, she was praying for hers. And as modern day parents, we're supposed to be lifting our children up in prayer. We are to seek God's guidance, his protection for them. Philippians 4:6 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And so we pray offline that our listeners who recently took the poll as far as, what they've been going through on the home front. Many of them talked about parenting children, one of their biggest challenges right now. And so we're praying in Jesus' mighty name that God is going to lead you as a matriarch, patriarch, grandparent, adopted parent, foster parent, what have you, that God is going to lead you, guide you, protect you even as you are teaching these children. We want your children to be led into one of those environments in the future where it's a healthy environment, that they have their own loving family. You see, we want children to be emotionally as well as physically cared for. You see, we want all these environments to be stable and supportive. And too many individuals got story after story. Some of you all who have listened over the years shared your own stories where your environments were not stable. They were not supportive. And some of you all, you don't even have that kind of relationship with parents and grandparents and foster parents and so forth any longer, spiritual ones, because of the instability and the toxic environment. God got you out of that. And so that's all the more reason why you don't put those sorts of environments on your children. Check yourself. Check how you're talking to these children. Check how you are providing for these children. And check them when they're out of line. I thank you as always for taking time out to listen. You've been listening to YouTube, NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and we do welcome giving on this channel. The links are in the description box. Blessings to you.